All right, you guys. We'll try again tomorrow. Thank you so much, Gary.
Yep, it'll be done and ready.
You're such a sweetheart. We appreciate you.
So the main, so we'll just go ahead and you'll just go ahead and record a little mini clinic here then. The most important thing about soldering is cleanliness. So you have to, regardless of where you are, you have you need to, everything needs to be clean and spotless. So investigate the. Take a look at the crown.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that needs to be soldered? This is a proximal contact. So visually inspect how much you need to add to the contact, and then you can just keep that in your mind for the moment. But then a soft rubber wheel you can just take and run it across the surface that needs to be soldered, and this will take away any impurities that are on the surface. Remember, cleanliness is next to godliness. It has to be perfectly clean. So you see what I was rubbing there? There's a little spot. Do you see that little spot?
Mm-hmm.
That little spot needs to use the corner of the rubber wheel, so that little spot goes away. Now everything is clean.
Oh.
You have the whole surface clean.
Oh.
Now, what you want to determine for yourself, and when you were looking at the model, determining where you want the solder to flow. So, a good thing to remember and a good thing to help you with is, how can you define that area where you want just the solder to flow? And a good way to do that is to draw a border to where you want to prevent the solder from flowing. The carbon is an antiflux, and a simple a simple leaded pencil is a good antiflux. So take your pencil, and it can be any number 2 leaded pencil, and just, you don't want the solder to flow into the inside of the crown, so you definitely want to mark that area. You don't want the solder to flow onto the occlusal, so you mark that area. And then contact should be broad from the buccal tip, from the mesial buccal to the mesial lingual. So we'll draw a little border right out here, and we'll draw a little border right out here. Now when we melt our solder, it will flow, but it won't go beyond the area that we've marked. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Solder flows to the hottest point of this is the parent, this is the host, this is and then our solder that we will be applying will go to the hottest part of the host of the crown that you're going to be heating. So when we the ideal thing with solder is to understand the melting temperature of the crown, and then have a compatible solder for that particular gold. In this case, a number 650 solder is what you would want. Do you have a number 650 solder? Do you have one that's non? I don't. Preflux solder. You don't want that flux just to flash everywhere. We're going to use a it's a pre-solder. See, now this solder, this solder is for a ceramic gold. It melts too hot.
Oh yes.
For this, you need a number 650. I thought you bought. It should be a flat.
No, this is the cup. William cup. No.
That's non-precious.
This is solder. This is for.
Yeah, it looks like you ordered some.
This is Jalenko.
Yeah, let me see that. This is Olympia. No, this is too hot. This is a ceramic solder. Did it looks like you ordered it
A buy, yes.
from Kiev. It looks like you should have some. Yeah, that's non-precious. it'll be flat.
See that? I see one. This is
No, that's well, oh yeah, maybe.
hay que comprar, no hay más soldadura.
But you should have that's the one. That's the one you need.
Necesitamos eso.
Okay, this is 650. It bends like 650, feels like 650. Okay, you need to make sure that you keep everything organized and know exactly what is what. Never have to guess when you're in a hurry. But we'll assume that this is 650. It looks like it, but I don't know for sure. So what we're going to do is we know when you're adding a contact, always add a little tighter than what the model says. When a crown moves in the mouth, it particularly if it's something like this, always leave more than less. It's easier for a doctor to adjust some off than it is to add it back. You don't want to be adding contacts. So what we're going to lay some solder on here. So the first thing we're going to do is cut off a strip, and be careful, hold it with your finger, careful with your cut, and then it doesn't fly off anywhere. So I've got that little cut in my hand here. So we're going to use that, and we're going to use another thickness just like that. That little piece, put it back in here. You need to label this so you don't have any confusion. And this one is 650. We'll put that in there so you'll know that at least one part of it is 650. Where's the marker? Okay, now the next part is you've got your 2 strips of solder. You have do you see the look, how it's nice and clean, a dull sheen, and it's a nice clean surface. So what you're gonna I need a pair of fine tweezers. I need a pair of fine tweezers.
What is scissor? Another scissor? I know. Necesita otras pinzas, otras tijeras, amor. Unas negritas. I remember the one black. These are not this. No eran, yo creo. ¿Cuáles? No, ya no. Is okay this or
No,
no?
like you would pick an eyebrow or something.
Oh, this.
Tweezers. I don't have my little knife, or I would use that.
Daddy, it's okay to use this? No? On
This. Okay, so here's our solder, and this one is a little longer than this one, so this is the one we're going to start with first. Now that very little doesn't take much, but what you do now is take that and just gently smear the surface where you want the solder to flow. Do you see that?
Yes.
Very little, not much at all. And then place the solder onto the surface. And we need a double thickness. That's too much, so just wipe a little off with my finger, and we're going to place that directly on top. You have more light?
Más luz.
You need ¿Hay otro de estos ahí? ¿Qué le pasemos? Uno de...
That's okay, I got it.
Cari, question. Is okay for you? This?
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Hay una luz que está en el escritorio donde la luz no quiere ser. ¿Dónde trabaja Lisa?
Okay. Now, with your camera, take a look at how this solder is placed. Now try to hold it steady so you can see. You have a double thickness
Yes.
because of the amount that you're going to be soldering. You have a thickness that comes from here to here,
Yes.
and it comes to the marginal ridge, the mesial marginal ridge. Now we've got we took our antiflux across the top, so we don't want solder to flow over the occlusal. So now that we have our solder placed, now it's important to consider how you're going to heat the crown so the solder flows to the hottest part of the crown.
Okay.
You don't want it too hot, or the solder will just flash everywhere. You don't want it too hot because you don't want porosity in your solder. So temperature control now becomes a very important thing. So I've got it clamped down here, but I'm going to move my clamp around here so it doesn't interfere with the temperature control. Careful not to bend the margin. Our solder moved a little bit, so we need to put that back in place. Okay. I want you to hold that right there. Just take a hold with your fingers right there and hold that.
Sujétalo.
Hold it steady so it does not move. Now we're going to prepare our heat source. Okay, now I'm going to turn out the light so we can look at the flame. Now you want a good mixture of oxygen and gas to get a good hot flame, but not so much oxygen that you create a lot of oxide, and a flame that's the right size that you can control your heat. Now that's a good flame. We have our reducing cone right in here. So when we heat this up, we're going to be heating it right in this area here. And we're going to start, got it, thank you. We're going to start heating it slowly, and it's going to dry out the flux. And when it does that, we want the flux, when it crusts, we want the flux to hold the solder in place. If you heat it too quick, or if you heat it in the wrong direction, your flux is going to move. And we don't want that. That's a bad thing. So let's go ahead and turn the light back on. Let's go ahead and turn the light back on.
What is it? Back on. What did you need? I don't know.
Yeah, just flip the light switch.
El switch, la luz.
Look at this. Oh, yeah, yes. Okay, the light.
All right, now, so watch how I begin to heat this. It's going to be heating from here and ultimately all the way up through the crown, because that's I want to control the heat source. It's very important, because remember, where does the solder flow? To the hottest point of the crown. So watch it when it starts turning red. Start up here, heating it slowly. Keep an eye on the solder. Make sure it doesn't move. You see how it's bubbling? Now the flux has dried out. The solder has stayed in position. That's a good thing. Now we're going to start controlling the heat. This is not 650 solder. No, this is a high fusing solder.